Today on the podcast, we're having a conversation with Chris Vaught, the lead pastor at Connection Point in Jackson, Missouri. His story is a wild one that I can't wait for you to hear, because as he came back from COVID, they were running around 600, and in just 4 years, they now are seeing around 3,500 people in their church. But here's where it gets even crazier. He's in a community of only 13 to 14,000 people. What is happening at Connection Point is incredible as they are reaching rural America. And what happened is they realized that the community that they thought they were placed in looked a lot different than they originally thought. What he does so well is he has a clear picture of what his community looks like, but he's not just content with growing a big church. Multiple years ago, we began working together as he started to not just better engage and serve the community, but then to help them grow in their faith and then go and make disciples themselves. They're a great example of being both attractional and missional. So let's jump into the conversation today with my good friend, Chris Vaught. All right. We are on the podcast and excited for my friend Chris Vaught to join us today. Chris, you did well, man. You wore the Make Disciples shirt. And so, I mean, I feel like that's the shirt of the podcast right there.
That's it.
And so I love it, man. Great to have you. Chris Vaught has become a really great friend of mine, and Robbie's doing incredible things. So excited to share that story in Jackson, Missouri. The big joke that we always share, Chris, is, and you know where it is like, who has the bigger biceps, you or Robbie? And so if most of our people are listening to this podcast, but just imagine it's a pretty close race. And so do you and Robbie, do y'all actually talk smack to one another at all?
No, we never have. We've never measured. We just kind of joke about it. I think we're both scared to measuring because we're really close and we don't know which one's going to win. And right now we can go, I don't know, it's close, bro. Maybe you got it. I don't know. He's slimming down a little bit right now, so I may have an inch on him, but I'm not sure.
That's right. I love it.
I'm still bulking. He's leaning.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, get him in that right window, man. And so love it. Well, hey, today I'm really excited about this conversation because I've gotten to walk with Chris in Connection Point. And man, God is doing some incredible things in Jackson, Missouri, of all places. And I think that's part of the story today that I think is so fascinating. And so really excited to jump into that conversation. Give us a little context as we get started, Chris. You've been the lead pastor there for how long? Tell us about the community. Just give us a little bit of context as we jump into the conversation.
Yeah, so Jackson, Missouri, we're about 100 miles south of St. Louis, going down toward the Boot Hill there, Missouri. Jackson is in Cape Girardeau County. Some people, familiar more with Cape Girardeau. Jackson is a city of about 15,000. Been here since January of 2011. Originally from Kentucky, so when we was coming across, the Mississippi to come to Missouri, everybody in Missouri said I was coming to the promised land. Everybody in Kentucky said I was going to the land of Goshen. We've been here 15 years, still trying to figure it out, but it's been an incredible 15 years here at Connection Point Church. What we've seen God do is absolutely nothing short of just His grace. We have a saying around here, we want to see God do something that only Jesus can get the credit for. And we feel like we're living that right now. We feel like we're right there in that moment. And our prayer is we just don't get in the way and don't slow it down. And let's see what He does in the next span of time. So.
And I would totally agree with that. That idea of we are living in that era of something only God can do. Just let's give a teaser. We're going to go year by year. We're going to unpack some stuff as we go, but give just a little bit, how big was the church when you got there? What was it at COVID? What growth did you see? Because it's absolutely wild. And then two, Jackson's 10,000 people?
Yeah. Well, I think, the last census was 13,700, but we usually say somewhere around 15,000, probably.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's wild. I grew up in near a town of about that much. And so the thought of that, anyway, go ahead. Tell us a little bit of give us the timeline.
All right. So, we arrived here in January of 2011. The church is about 300 strong. At that time, we were navigating through the season. They had two services going on. One was a traditional, and one was a contemporary model, and just trying to find themselves through that moment. But they were very hungry about trying to reach the local community, and so they were open for a whole lot of suggestions and ideas. And I'm a visionary kind of guy and a strategic guy. That's where my gift sets are. And so come in looking at the community. We began to make some shifts within the first couple of years, really trying to become more outward focused rather than inward, but building on a solid foundation. Something you got to think about coming into this place. This church started in July 1959. It wasn't named Connection Point at that time. It was a very denominationally driven congregation. In 2012, and I tease people and say I wouldn't advise any new pastor to do this, but the Lord just laid it out, and the leadership was for it. And so in 2012, we actually changed the name to Connection Point, because our goal was we wanted to be a point of connection for people to meet Christ and to meet one another. And it's kind of based off of the great commandments, love the Lord and love people, right? We started seeing some subtle changes, but I got to be honest with you, the growth came slowly for the first few years. Probably 5 years into that, we may have been running 400 people. But then all of a sudden, the culture began to shift. Everyone began to really start focusing more outward than inward. The passion, the motivation started happening. The Spirit began to lead us to become more evangelistic. And over the course of 10 years, we grew about 800 people. So fast forward to 2021, we had grown to about 1,100. Now, in that time span, we also relocated. So where we were when I arrived in 2011 was a facility that was built in 1970 and been added on to 6 different times. It was 3 floors on the side of a hill with 17 exterior doors and no lobby. If you can picture that, right? It was just
joy.
Like addition. And we actually, so we were worshiping in the Family Life Center on the bottom floor. Our children's ministry was on the 2nd floor, and our nursery was on the 3rd floor. And we had to paint stripes of different colors up staircases in order for you to get around the maze.
Oh, joy.
We'd grown to about 800 come 2008, 2009, or excuse me, 2018, 19, is that right?
Yeah.
And so, I'm doing the math in my head. And we started looking at adding on that piece of property or either relocating. And this is just a cool story. I've got to tell you this God story. We were really getting frustrated because we'd brought in architects to look at our building, and the numbers were just astronomical because of the maze just to tie the building together before we could even add on to the space. And we were already doing 3 services in 2018 with 800 people. Early 2018, one of my trustees said, "Hey, Pastor, would you come across town and look at this piece of property with me?" It was a Monday morning. And we just had a prayer night the night before. Didn't have anything spectacular happen. No, no visions, no, hyper spiritual moment, just a prayer meeting. That Monday morning, I went and walked on 28 acres of property across town that was just starting to develop. That piece of property was owned by a guy getting ready to put in a 100-house subdivision, and he got into financial issues and wasn't going to be able to build the subdivision. So the banks were holding the note. And I said, man, I don't know if I've got enough change in my pocket yet to relocate the church. But I called the elders, and they came out and started walking the property. And listen, I'm not exaggerating. Within 10 minutes, grown men were crying on this piece of property. And
Wow.
I'm like, all right, I'm either about to get fired or, what in the world's going on? And I asked one of them, I said, why are you guys so emotional? And they said, you don't understand this. The pastor before you, he was a beloved pastor. He pastored the whole community. His name was Luther Rhodes. He was here nearly 26 years. 10 years prior, 2008, he had brought the elders to this exact piece of property. The 28
Wow.
acres wasn't for sale at that time. Only 10 were.
Wow.
And it was an astronomical dollar amount for 10 acres. Okay. And they knew they couldn't afford it in 2008. And he made a statement. He said, boys, somebody someday is going to build a church on this piece of property.
Mm.
Fast forward now, 2018, I'm standing on this piece of property with those elders.
Wow.
They're emotional and telling me we didn't know we would be the ones to build on this piece of property. And now not 10 acres was for sale, but the whole 28 acres were for sale.
Wow.
And just to add to the God moment, we went to the bank and said, if we give you cash, how much would you sell us the 28 acres for? It was in such a financial predicament that the banks sold us the property for 30% of what 10 acres were selling for in 2008.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we bought the whole 28 acres.
Wow.
So November of 2019, we opened the new campus. And by the way, there's not a stair in the building.
There you go.
That was part of the architectural drawings. I told him, I said,
great.
we're going from 3 stories, we're going to no stairs, right?
That's good.
We built this property. We grew to about 1,100 in 2021. And that's when some major things shifted for us, which I'm sure we'll get into those discussions.
Yep.
And from 2021 to 2023, we doubled.
Wow.
From 2023 to 2025, we've had another run of exponential growth, nearly another 1,000. And so it's been an incredible 15 years, but since 2021, so the last, nearly 5 years, has been nothing short of miraculous, especially in the context of a city of 15,000. And now we have also launched our first multi-site campus 30 miles away in the second poorest county of our state, in a town of 1,700 people. It is 15 months old. And I just got to tell you, God is doing something incredible there. That campus now is running over 400 people in its first year in 2 services. They were maxed out every weekend so far this summer, and we're getting ready to have to move them to 3 services. We're just hoping we can hold them off till August.
Come on.
But I don't know that we're going to.
Awesome. That's
or, sometime
good.
this fall, rather.
So you go from 2021, you come back out of COVID around 600. It goes up to, I mean, you're now over 3,000 if I'm remembering right. Yeah. So let's talk about that. There was a shift that happened other than becoming, if I remember right, the Walmart church, I think, which like for people's context, like very traditional setting in Jackson, Missouri. So like when you guys put your Walmart church out there, it is like very much like, almost insulting to the other religious, people who grew up in the area. So, but 5 years ago, you make a huge shift, not just in the building, but in how you're doing ministry. Tell me a little bit about that shift that you made 5 years ago. Tell us a little of the story and the impact it's had.
Yeah, absolutely. So the funny part about the Walmart deal, right, is Jackson is a German community. It's very staunch, Catholic or Lutheran. So it's extremely traditional, very, very German, stoic culture. And when we built our new building, we built a very contemporary modeled facility, and it was the other pastors in the community that was going around saying, look, they're building a Walmart building over there because of the size of our campus and so on. And you made a statement that I didn't mention in the timeline. We opened the building in November. We closed in March because of COVID of 2020 with 1,100 people. When we reopened later that summer, we actually came back with 600 people.
Wow.
And 50% of those people were totally a different crowd than what we had prior to COVID. So really, If you look at it from the fall of 2020 to today, it's been 600 to over 3,000, which is
Wow.
just a God
Unreal.
story, right? But what happened was during that time we were in 2020 and coming out of that, especially when we came back and we lost, 500 people. I was really struggling with wanting to make sure we were on mission. And I have a heart for evangelism, and just seeing our community reeling. And then inside the church, we were struggling so much among our staff because now all of a sudden, prior to COVID, we had to add staff along with the growth. And we realized we didn't have the internal structure for it. So we really started focusing in on internal structure. And when we got into those discussions, we found out we really didn't even know who we were going after. I mean, we're like, well, we want to reach anybody and everybody. But in saying I want to reach anybody and everybody, we were realizing we was reaching nobody.
Yeah.
Right? It was very scattered and wasn't on purpose. And I'm a very strategic minded person. And those question marks is what keeps me up at night. It's like, do we even know what God is doing among us so that we can capitalize on it and use the gifts that he's given us? And in that, we just really started searching for wisdom from outside sources, talking to pastors and groups and saying, hey, come in and help us. What questions should we even be asking? I think sometimes as leaders, we're afraid to let people know we've got questions to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually become our own stumbling block. And for me, I did not want our lack of understanding where we needed to go to be the stumbling block. So we started asking questions, and we're asking them from outside organizations and consultants and pastors. And I'm a big proponent of asking questions from pastors and churches that are larger than you are, so you can think like they're thinking, and where do we need to go, and what do I need to see that I'm not seeing? And one of the big pieces for us is, could we even identify what the average male and female in our city looked like and what their spiritual needs were? So we started diving deep into the demographics of our community. We started diving deep into finding out who are the people living in our city.
Hey, church leader, I hope these podcast episodes and the Movement Ready Church book that Robbie and I have written are helping you get disciple making started in your church. What I'm excited for in the next season is that we're taking the Movement Ready Church book to your church. We are doing one-day workshops where myself or one of the navigators on our Replicate team come on site to your church and work with your staff and leaders to take the principles of this book and to put it into action. What I love about this workshop is that we're not going to do just trainings from the book, but we are actually going to help you create something personal for your church. We're going to give every one of your leaders some essential training to grow as disciple makers and to be a developer of leaders. Secondly, we're going to give you a personalized assessment of your disciple making culture. And then thirdly, we're going to create a 1-year focus and a first step to get started so that you can see your movement begin. So all you have to do is go to movementreadytraining.com to get more information and to get started. You'll see it's pretty simple. Let's jump on a call together. Let's create a personalized training day for your church, and then let our team take care of the rest. And we will bring the Movement Ready Church to your church. So just go to movementreadychurchtraining.com and let's get your movement started. Now, let's get back to our conversation together.
Like, what are the things that y'all started to look at? Like, what are some of those specifics?
Yeah, so we started looking at, of course, the population, but what is the average age?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're in a very stoic German community. Sure. And what we found was when we asked our leaders, hey, what do you think the average age is in Jackson, Missouri? Everybody was saying, it's just a bunch of German farmers and businessmen. They're 55, 60. That's probably 55, 60 years old. when we did the demographics, we found out the average male is 28 years old in our city, and the average female is 27.
And just curious, that gap, do you think that's because your congregation reflected more of that former demographic
No,
at the
absolutely. At the
time?
time,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so
Yeah.
you get used to that thinking, oh, well, that's what everybody looks like
Yeah.
because that's who they hang out with.
Yeah.
And the city can actually change around a church and the church be blind to it
Wow.
until you pull away with fresh eyes and take a real dive into the reality around you.
Yeah. No, I love that because I would think that there's many churches that they have that. Our community looks like this, but really they're just saying it's an extension of what the congregation looks like.
Absolutely.
And they wonder why maybe a church is plateaued or declining because I love what you said, the community changing around the church and the church
Yeah.
doesn't even notice. And
Yeah.
so that's so powerful. And so where did you guys what'd you do with that once you started to connect those data points?
Yeah. So, we brought our key leaders in and we just simply started unveiling the facts, putting them on screens and poster boards all around the room. Adrian Rogers used to have a post-it note on his desk that said, most decision making is simply gathering the facts.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
gather enough facts, they can speak pretty loud.
Wow.
And so when we started noticing, well, here's the average age. And then we started looking at what's their average income. Well, here's their demographic financially. What were they working at? So we actually identified the top 3 employers for the majority of our community.
Mhm.
We started looking at what are the main hobbies this city promotes? What are people going to? What are they involved in? And so we started listing those out. And before long, man, we had a wall full of, here are the facts about our community. If we're going to reach this community, if we're going to bloom where we're planted, if we're going to be effective in
Mhm.
making disciples here, then the ministries that come from our congregation has to reach that demographic.
Yeah, that's good.
And so then we went through a phase, and I think to me um, it was the period at the end or the exclamation point, the cherry on the top, whatever you want to say for it. But the thing that really sealed it in our hearts was then someone challenged us and said, can you name that man? Can you name that
Mm.
woman?
Mm.
And so we began to take the demographics we had of the male first, because we all know, man, if you can reach men for Jesus,
Yeah.
the data's there.
Right.
The family's legacies that are transformed. So we said, what does this male look like? And we actually named him based off of the demographic material. Now I'm not the big creative guy that can think through those processes. I'm more the strategy guy.
Yeah.
So I made sure I had some creatives in the room with me. And what came out of that is we could tell you now every leader on our staff can tell you who Hungry Hunter is in our community.
Mm.
And we've gotten to the point where we can see our community through that lens.
Yeah.
And every decision from that moment forward always has Hungry Hunter in the mix. Hungry because he's hungry for significance. We found that 28-year-old men in our community are looking for significance. They're concerned about being a man. They're not ready to put away their video games at night yet. They're still going out with their buddies and their trucks, and they're still out in the community and they're hunting and fishing. But they're hungry for purpose and significance. And so they're trying to find themselves in that aspect. They're hunting for significance, hungry hunter.
Yeah.
Then when we studied the females, though, we found out she's already in a place where she wants security. Most of our hunters are already living with their girlfriend outside of marriage and have 1 to 2 children.
Mm.
Hannah is hurting because she knows it's not the right model. She wants to be in a committed marriage. She's got children, but she needs the security. And she is ready to move forward while he's still trying to find significance. So from that moment forward, every decision we make here at CPC, we ask the question, how does this speak to Hungry Hunter and Hurting Hannah?
It's good. Love that. And so you get those too. I mean, you can only imagine how much that changes like worship service and programming and your messaging, how you preach a message.
Yeah.
And so love that. So you get clear on it. You become the Walmart church. You start
Yeah.
reaching after Hungry Hunter, Hurting Hannah, and then you start seeing this growth. And so what's funny is I think at that point, most pastors are like, they're living the pastor dream that they hoped for. I
Right.
mean, look at this explosive growth. Who could, like this is what I've always wanted. Yet whenever, especially when we started to spend some time together, you're like, man, I'm staying up at night. Like I'm having a hard because there's something missing. You
Right.
still had this burden and angst. Talk a little bit about
Yeah.
what was missing despite the growth.
Yeah, it seemed like the faster we were growing, the more sleepless I became. I'm very evangelistic by
Fascinating.
nature, right? So we were seeing a massive amount of conversions to faith.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about the difference in who started coming through our doors, but prior to COVID, the people came through our doors were usually people transferring from other churches. And it was more of, what's your denominational belief about this? Or what is your theological idea on this? Right.
Yeah.
Or where do you stand? After COVID, when we really started going after Hunters and Hannahs, this is no joke. From my prayer team, their report was 3 months later into focusing on Hunters and Hannahs, the number one question asked to our prayer ministry at the end of a sermon was, he said John 3:16, what does that mean? They didn't know chapter, book, and verse references. We started reaching people right here in our own community, a community that, by the way, on our city sign says Jackson is a beautiful city of schools, parks, and churches. Everyone thinks everyone goes to church here. And what we found out was that's a facade.
Wow.
When we really going after our community, they didn't know the very basics of Christianity. So it had to change the way I preached. It had to change the way we did discipleship. And what was keeping me up at night was we're seeing conversions. We've got new people walking through the doors. But just because they're coming through the doors, just because our numbers are rising, just because we have this many people saying yes to following Christ and being baptized, does not make them a disciple, and especially not a disciple who makes more disciples.
That's right. Yeah. I love that. And
that's why I couldn't sleep.
That's right. I remember that was like, how do we actually grow them up in it? And what I love is you got that picture at the beginning of Hungry Hunter, Hurting Hannah. But then as we started to work together, you guys have one of my, I say this a lot, but I really do mean it. Like you have one of my favorite Dream Disciples because of how well it works with kids, students, adults.
Yeah.
And so just as clear as that picture is on the front end, you have it on the back end.
Right.
What is that Dream Disciple? What are those roles?
Yeah. I love our Dream Disciple. Our congregation has bought into this. And now every single week, our children chant it in the kids programming. And I say it through my pastoral prayer before we go into the sermon. And we constantly finding ways to tie it together. But it's really simple. We actually took it off of the head, shoulders, knees, and toes game because we wanted it to relate from our basic children, the basic level of children all the way through adults. And so it's a mind of truth, a voice of hope, a heart of compassion, hands of service, and feet of purpose. We want to be a well-defined disciple. And one of the ideas is it goes all the way down to infancy. When we dedicate a family, we can now challenge them with a prayer declaration over their children to go in at night and pray over their child lying in that bed. Father, give my child a mind of truth and a voice of hope and a heart of compassion, hands of service, feet of purpose.
Yeah.
And we believe that that is a well-rounded view of a full disciple.
Yeah, I love that, and it's just for our people who aren't watching in video, you can if you were seeing Chris is just doing, to his mind, he's doing it to his mouth, like, you can't not do that, like,
Right.
every time I do it, I do the same thing, and, like, I love how simple that is. Also, too, when you think about that's accessible for Hungry Hunter and Hurting Hannah. And if Hurting Hannah and their young family, like, to have something that works for the kids level, like, all of
Mhm.
that is you guys did so well of how do we communicate discipleship? How do we
Yeah.
communicate transformation,
Right.
multiplication
Right.
in a way that actually resonates with Hurting Hannah and a Hungry Hunter? And so love that. You guys, what I think is so unique is I think most churches, they can settle for doing either attractive ministry or missional ministry. Like attractive being like, "Hey, come and see," and then missional being like, "Okay, go and tell."
Right.
You guys find both, and even this idea, like you got a clear picture of an individual that you're trying to reach at the beginning, and what success looks like at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, how are you guys like I would as you how are you taking both that evangelistic and that
Mhm.
discipleship
Mhm.
zeal together? And maybe what would be your encouragement for pastors who maybe lean towards one of those at the
Yeah.
neglect of the other?
Yeah, and it's really easy, and it seems like that happens a lot, right? Especially in our world that we live in the church leadership world.
Yeah.
But when you really look at Jesus's great commission, right, to go and make disciples, you can't make a disciple until you lead them first to faith. But once they become a follower of faith and a follower of Jesus, now all of a sudden, that's when Jesus said, go make disciples, and then you teach them, right? So it's not an either or, it should be a both and.
Yeah.
And so we've got to focus on both and so from way we preach on the weekends to even the way we disciple in our discipleship path, we're constantly trying to bring those who are coming in and giving their hearts to Christ, and then we get them into a huddle, a D group, or small group. We want to train them how to then go back and always have the mindset for their friend, for their neighbor, for their coworker, for their circle of influence, for the one who doesn't know Christ. And so we use terminology like always going after the one.
Mm,
And with the idea of going after the one, you're bringing them into the fold of the 99 so
mm,
that we can disciple them and raise them up. But we never reach a place where we check off and say we've made it. We
yeah.
can't let that be in our vocabulary. We're telling them constantly to go back to their one and share their testimony. And I think one of the things that is easy to do and neglected by so many is teaching people how to use their personal testimony along with scripture when they go share the gospel. Because a lot of folks, here's what we find out. We find, especially when you're reaching hunters and Hannahs, they know they're not in no position to go out and to debate theology with people. So we encourage them. We're not teaching you to go debate theology. We can get you into systematic theology. We can help you with that. But every believer can take basic gospel and scripture along with their testimony of how Jesus Christ transformed their life. And when you go out back to where you live, work, and play, share your personal story because no one can argue with your testimony because you're the expert in it. And you bring that into their discipleship path.
Yeah.
So in their huddles, in their small groups, as they're growing in their faith, serving on a serve team in our church, we're constantly reminding them, hey, this is great. We're so proud of you. Don't forget to reach and grab your one and bring your one with you.
Yeah.
Let your one come join you on the parking lot team. Let your one come join you in your huddle. Let your one
Yeah.
come to your small group. And as we're
Yeah.
growing you, you're going to influence them for Jesus.
Yeah, man, love that. That idea of, hey, let each one reach one,
Yeah.
and that concept of just breaking that down. And so you guys did really well. You are now, at that point, that was sorry, 2 years ago, I think we did this. Like we
Yeah.
were doing a process together.
Yep.
We got Hungry
2024.
Hunter, Hurting Hannah. We've got our Dream Disciple roles built out. now you're 2 years down the road.
Yeah.
Your D groups, which you call huddles, which I
Right,
love.
right.
Like many people, like the idea of a huddle only works if it multiplies out and goes
Right.
and runs the play.
Right.
So like I love that huddle imagery that you guys give it. All right. So that's been going for 2 years now. Tell
Yeah.
us just a little bit about how D groups are going, the
Man.
impact that it's having in the community.
Dude, I'm telling you, these huddles is absolutely the most exciting thing we've ever launched in our church. I mean, since I've been here. I mean, it's story after story of complete life change. And the reason we settled on huddle is because we have to protect them from becoming just another small group, right? The whole emphasis is we want to disciple you to go make more disciples. And so by calling it a huddle, we use the sports analogy of saying, and we do it straight up front. We're bringing you in. We're going to do the hoorah. We're going to teach you how to read scripture and do hear journals and to learn how to share your faith. But on a certain date, this huddle's got to break, and you got to go back out into the field, and you got to go recruit your new team.
Yeah.
And in that, bring in a one, but then also, other believers. And so we want the huddle to go out and from day one be thinking, we're not staying together forever. We're only here for a season, but what we're doing is eternal. And so continue bringing those up. And like in my own personal huddle, I've got a couple of D1 head coaches. I've got business owners, and we get up early on a Tuesday morning and meet together. And the stories that's come out of that, watching these leaders, watching these coaches and hearing their stories. Listen, I've had Christian men in my huddle who've been followers of Jesus for years say, I've never had anything impact me like simply reading through a Bible reading plan and writing out a hear journal of how that verse applies to my life. And then sitting around a table with other men every week and sharing what Christ is speaking to me. It's changing lives. I've had employees of some of these men come to me at the church going, I believe my boss is in your huddle. Is that right? He has changed.
Wow. Dude.
I've had family members come to me and say, my loved one is being totally turned around by the gospel of Jesus Christ because he's in that Tuesday morning huddle. And that's not just my story, my huddle. We're hearing this from men, women, watch this, students, because now we've brought the huddle environment into our student ministry. And we've got students coming to faith in Jesus and bringing their friends to church so that they can get them into a huddle so they can start reading the Bible and have a foundation to put their faith on.
Man, that's so
It's
good,
rocking
dude.
our community.
I think what's so cool about that too is you said that that's the thing that you're most excited about, the greatest launch you guys have had. But think how easy that would have been able to be missed because you experienced this explosive growth, and in that, you didn't settle for good enough in that.
No.
And I think there's and really I talked to so many leaders like that, and that sure there's some leaders we feel plateaued and declining, but there's so many leaders where things are going great, but they know that the metric that something's off, and to be able to really look and say, okay, this is good, but there's more.
Yeah,
man, without that, you never get to the experience you have now.
right.
Final question for you here. And if you look at your journey that you've been on, what would be your encouragement from your experience? What would be your encouragement for other pastors, other ministry leaders that are maybe on the front end of some of the great things that you're experiencing now? What would be your encouragement to them as they lead?
Yeah. So first of all, don't get in the way of what the Holy Spirit is wanting to do. And the way we don't get in the way is, one, we stay humble, we ask questions of other great leaders, and we keep it simple. We understand who we've been called to go reach, and we put our efforts there, but then we make sure the discipleship path that we have is legit, that it is biblical. We're not chasing fads. For us, the thing that the D group model brought to us was the simplicity of discipleship. It wasn't another fad. It wasn't another program. We're simply bringing people back to the Bible. We're just reading the Bible. And that's what's absolutely changing people's lives, going back to scripture, going back to truth, keeping it simple, and people living out their faith together. And for leaders, trust that the Holy Spirit, through his word, has already laid out the pattern. And when we come together and we're able to share that kind of experience together and the wisdom that comes from that, we're not recreating the wheel. We're going back to the simple model. And that's what I love about everything we've gathered from Replicate Ministries is it's simply a call back to a model Jesus originated 2,000 years ago. And we're just following the teaching of the Messiah.
It's good.
Disciples making disciples. Trust the system.
Yeah.
And it's just been an incredible journey for us.
Man, so grateful for you, Chris. Grateful for your friendship. I think you are fantastic at getting things simple, being strategic, but also just being consistent. And so love what you guys are doing. I would definitely encourage anybody, ministry leader, that wants to learn more about how those huddles work, leadership development. Chris is a guru in it. And then also just how they both engage the community and move towards a dream disciple. Man, you do that so well. So if people want to connect with you, Chris, where do they go?
Yeah, simply go to yourcpc.church. On the About page, you can find my page with my links, and you can reach right out to me. I would love to be in contact with you. Any way we can connect together and build the kingdom together, hey, feel free. Reach out, yourcpc.church. Click on my link on the About page.
That's great. And Chris also leads a huddle with us. He helps so many different pastors. So if you resonate with his story, definitely reach out. He does cohorts and trainings there. So hope that you guys can connect because you've been a blessing in my life, man. Grateful for your story. Couple of things that Chris shared in here. He talked about the D groups and huddles. We're going to put in the leader notes the D group starter guide. This was the starter guide that we gave to Chris a couple of years ago that they've now taken it and made their own and made it even better. But that was really the beginning pieces that helped them get going and are starting to see what they're seeing now. So if you're interested in that, get the D Group Starter Guide. And as always, if this has been helpful, that you can subscribe and share it with others. It helps us begin to get the message out and help other churches and ministry leaders get back to making Jesus' final words their first work. Thanks for being with us, Chris, and look forward to seeing you soon, my friend.
Thank you, brother.